What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for September 9th, 2024. 3.24 is actually coming along, and I've been enjoying it quite a bit. 3.24.1 is here in the PTU with a pretty sneaky surprise, and we finally got some open and honest answers about this year's delays. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put them into one video, and share my opinions about them. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike. Stop by and say hello if you guys haven't yet. But we have a lot to get through this week, so before we do, let me tell you about today's sponsor. Thank you to Boot.dev for sponsoring today's video. This one's for all the armchair developers in the comments, a lot more lately than ever. You yourself can become a back-end web developer using Boot.dev's innovative and really smart lessons towards your goals. You will learn back-end web development programming languages like Python and Go, but what makes these lessons so different and cool, honestly, is that they use modern game design to create a self-paced but captivating RPG game that will teach you to code. It's not just games, though. Their philosophy is to use the games to get you to write a ton of code because they believe that getting your hands dirty and shipping projects is the only way to learn. On top of that, they have an active Discord community that will help you if you're stuck, but even help prepare you for technical interviews that may be coming up. Now, they have a new thing that I've seen, a Bear Wizard AI that will ask you questions to help you understand something that you might be stuck on rather than give you the answer. Boot.dev never wants their students to feel like they aren't getting value, so they offer a 30-day no questions asked refund policy as well as a free demo of every course and its interactive features. So click the link in the description and use code SaltEMike to get 25% off your first payment for Boot.dev. That's 25% off your first month or year, depending on the subscription you choose. Thank you to Boot.dev again for sponsoring today's video. Now, thanks for engaging with today's sponsor. This week more than ever, if you could see the sweat on my brow, my air conditioning broke, and I live in Florida, and it's really expensive. So thank you for engaging with them. But we got a ton to get through this week, so let's talk about those patch notes. Now, they've been doing a lot more of this lately. On Tuesday, they did a hotfix instead of a new patch, and they attempted to fix a really annoying bug with cargo boxes clipping into the ground, but they didn't do a good job of it. And they also disabled respawning in your hangar in like the Nursa C8R because that was causing a big problem, I guess. So yeah, it was bricking players' accounts, so they said, yeah, you can't do that anymore. Thursday, we were supposed to get a server meshing and RMQ test. It failed because of some crash right before they said it was about to go live, and it's not going to make it until they fix some of those issues. So it didn't make it on Friday either, which likely means we got to wait on next week if we're even lucky. That's like the fourth time in the last couple months that this specific test has failed. I hope we get this soon because the community kind of needs a win, and a fairly smooth meshing test would really be just that. So instead of doing that test on Friday, they did 3.24.1. And honestly, the most important change is not what you think it is, to me at least. This is something that every player in the player base touches, and it's a fix for the ASOP terminal. And it's when you swap screens. So if you say, I want my ship here, or you're expediting a ship, or anything like that, it stays where you were and the last ship that you interacted with. It's amazing. What you would assume, I would think, is the biggest update is the most surprising thing of the week. They teased something that looked like a Titan suit on Twitter, but it was a cargo exosuit that lets you interact with cargo in a completely new way. It's automated now. It basically will, you left click, it comes towards you. You left click again, wherever you place this hologram on the screen, and you left click again, and it just automatically goes there. The ease of interacting with cargo is significantly better now. I believe this should be the way all tractor beams work going forward, but tie in the old way to that. So 2 different modes where you have this automated mode, which kind of will launch your box into things if you're not really careful, and this more careful mode that's more tactile, like the one that we currently have. I think that would be really great. Overall, this thing's a lot of fun. We don't know what the price they're going to sell it at or anything like that. As of the recording of this video, it's open to everybody to try on the PTU, and the PTU is open to everybody. So if you guys want to check it out, you can. Then Jumptown, it started on Thursday, and it's running for a week, and I don't think that it's enticing any action right now. Let me know if you guys are excited or have had any fun experiences there, but I gotta say, I haven't went there and I don't really care, right? I think Jumptown really needs an update before we head back to it. But that was this week's patches, so some things going on, but nothing too crazy. Obviously, this server meshing test would have been great. So let's move into roadmap updates. Not a ton to see or say here, really. The actual content is delayed in 4.0, but the ships look to be rolling out on time, so we will see the Zeus, or the Zeus's, this IAE, it looks like, for one of the .x patches. I don't think it's going to be the .1 that's in testing right now, but who knows? And they also added the Peregrine to release view for 324, since we have it right now. I'm still holding out for a few decent updates, hopefully the one that's, dot patches, maybe .2, that will see these master mode changes or whatever that we heard about, that we were going to hear about on an ISC soon. So who knows? Not much to talk about on the roadmap update, so let's jump into the monthly reports. And we'll start out with AI tech, and I will start out by saying there's a ton of words about AI in this report. So if you're hyper excited about that stuff, I don't feel like we have a lot to pull out and highlight, except for a small thing about NPCs being able to travel between mesh servers, because that's kind of important. But as we know, until we have server meshing, a lot of this AI stuff doesn't really play for us, right? Animation, the section is mainly what feels like a teaser for ISC this week, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Character art. Guys, when I tell you the monthly report in this section has been copy-paste for the entire year, I'm not kidding. I fully expect a number of new armors with the launch of 4.0 or seen at Citcon. I don't know what we're doing here because we haven't shown much, right? Ship art, they are kind of quiet on this front with big sale surprises coming, I assume. But the Polaris is the only thing going on, seeing its exteriors finishing right now. Maybe it'll make it for IAE. And just to go back to the character art thing, we have seen some sneak peeks of other armors and stuff like that on ISC, but nothing too crazy that we didn't see at Citcon already, right? Then for core gameplay, they first gave some insight into how overheating will work. Hotter planets will overheat your components quicker. Also, if you missed last week's Week in Review, I pointed at a gun jam on the Karna rifle, and nobody pointed this out in the comments. That was a laser weapon, so that was actually kind of this overheating that we're talking about here. Charge and drain was mentioned, but from what I saw so far, I don't expect too much from this in the 4.0 release, because the ISCs on it, I thought, were pretty basic, right? In ships, it will obviously be more impactful. And then something huge. They are trying to declutter, I can't even say it, I'm so excited, to declutter the UI, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Thank you. And then resource network and engineering, got to mention. But the main thing here in the entire report for me, or maybe even the whole week, is that this sounds like ship health is going away. They have said that targeting power plants will be the way to kill ships for probably a decade now. The work being done to get that there is happening right now. Combine this with something like Maelstrom, and I don't know what to expect, right? Are bullets just going to be going through our ships like Expand style? Like, it could be really game-changing, the thing we're talking about right here, right? And then the mission refactor also gets a mention, but I think the major call-out for this is service beacons are now being worked on for it, but we don't know if this is bringing them in the refactor for what we already have or making something new. And then economy is just doing what they do, slowly working through the mess that they inherited. But it will always be a bit confusing to the player until this work is done and cohesive. So they did point out that that's something they're doing. I gotta give them props though. I love the rental ship changes for cargo. They did well there, and it restores some faith that they can get this in a better spot for me, a little bit at least. Mission design, pyro missions were mentioned with little detail blurbs. We saw this on ISC, and in my opinion, they felt a little bland and basic. I'm sure they will be fun to do here and there, but until they get the gameplay, that has more purpose, right? These basic missions will always suffer. And then VFX, the only reason I'm really showing this is because of the picture. The road to the jump point is not what it looks like in game currently or what we had seen previously. There's like this kind of straight line with these almost waves pulling you in. It looks pretty cool. So that was the monthly report. We'll do the Squadron Monthly Report if it's relevant next week, so let's jump into video updates. I would say this is where the meat of the episode is this week. We had an ISC titled Alpha 4.0 Creatures and Characters, and the first thing people need to know about is why CIG would waste their time on something like this. So they kind of share how they feel in this clip.
Creatures in general add believability to the world and the experience. And in general, when you're flying your ship or driving around, seeing fauna running around and just being in the world, it's like, oh cool, I'm actually like, on a planet, I'm in an environment.
So do I think now's the time for this? I don't know, probably not. It doesn't feel like it, right? But this is what they're saying true, right? Yes. I think about how dead the game is on so many levels, and this solves one of those levels. It's one of the lower levels, but it solves one of those levels, right? It makes random places you might end up feel a little bit more alive. Next up, there's a bunch of different space cows.
There are 5 different types of quasi-grazers in 4.0, and you'll see them scattered in various biomes. The desert variant of the quasi-grazer is the one you're all familiar with, that you've seen in like the Star Engine trailer, and it is going to be on Hurston. The next kind is the boreal forest, which is quite nice as they are on Microtech. You'll see that it has hair around its neck and its faceplate is more pronounced. So they will be spawning near Copions and near the Mareks as well. And if they ever end up crossing paths, there will be arguments between them. I don't think that the Copions will loot the cow eggs, but it just means there's a nice systemic gameplay that you can come across where a Copion has hunted a cow in this case. The grasslands version of the quasi-grazer, you'll see that they have darker fur and, in general, a more darker shade on their skin as well.
The grassland quasi-grazer looks more like a buffalo with the way its fur is made. Like the desert quasi-grazer, it also has eggs that you can loot.
They live in the savanna area of Microtech. And it will be joined by a jungle variant which will be sharing the savanna for the time being. And lastly, the one I'm most excited about is the Arctic variant. You will find the tundra space cow in the tundra, the more cold areas of Microtech. Interestingly, it is the only variant without eggs, and instead you'll be able to loot this creature's tongue.
What?
Yeah, the tongue.
Okay, that's weird, but in general, they are pretty cool. Hopefully those eggs are used for something like crafting at some point. My favorite is the sneaky mention of the jungle version, which is temporarily here. Where are there supposed to be jungles? I feel like this is a sneak peek at Citcon. Let me know in the comments if you know a place that has jungle biomes in the lore, because I don't off the top of my head. Like, people said Terra and Magnus. Isn't Magnus connected to Stanton? So yeah, maybe. I was really surprised about this next clip, though.
The real trouble comes if you disturb these gentle creatures by attacking them or as there's a hostile nearby.
If you are mean to the cows in any capacity, what they will do is the majority of them will run away. However, one will come and knock you over. And it will only do a small amount of damage, but I would like to track the telemetry on how many people die to them, which would be interesting.
They can be quite deadly, as cows are in real life.
Forced reactions, in my opinion, have been the worst implementation of anything put in this game. Yes, even more than the green skybox. But this feels like they finally found a reason for them to make sense, right? When it knocked you over, it looked natural in the video and stuff like that. Then the rest of the ISE was focused on bringing some of the things that we saw at Citcon last year, like more hairstyles. It certainly looks like there are more faces as well added, which went, they went pretty crazy there with that. We have a whole tattoo system that you can change colors and the age of, piercings, and they're only studs for now because rings are a little bit more complicated to do. Stubble, which can go under some beards and give that, look that I have right now, and apologize for that. But yeah, it was pretty cool. They're really moving along on the character creator. I think most of us wear helmets all the time, but you love to see it, and I think it's really good. Star Citizen Live question and answer tech talk with the CTO Chief Technical Officer Benoit Beauchezor. As always, it's a long show. I won't clip out everything, but just things I think are important and you would want to know about. And links in the description for that, but the first clip is all about metrics.
24 is a super interesting patch for a lot of reasons. Also because we've introduced new metrics to Star Engine that have launched in 24. So we have now a lot more information about the state of the game servers and how they perform. So we've instrumented a lot of things in the engine. And to be clear, we've had metrics before. This is more about long-term metrics that we track over a long period of time. So that allows us to really correlate important events, right? Like an area streaming in causing problems, certain game components costing us, frame time in certain areas. And so I like to say that these new metrics are like if optimizing the game is like a large cornfield, the tools that we used to have to do this were very optimized, very great microscopes, right? But now with these new metrics, we have a radar that tells us exactly where to look for and drill down. And so I'm hopeful that with 24, we already got a couple of reveals. Just seeing the live release roll out with these metrics, and so I'm hopeful that's going to bring forward a lot more improvements as well.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm excited about it.
I don't have a ton to add here. I just think that it's great that they're getting more data based on what we're doing and what the game is doing to make it better, but it's important to include this because this is how we see the game improve, right? Or they at least can see it improve. Then Jared asks all the questions we needed answered around server meshing.
What are we testing for now? Why has the gap been so long between tech preview tests for this? And is this really working as well as we hope?
So the gap, I'll start with the gap. And so these tests really gave us a lot of data, right? Because of the way we conducted them. We were able to try different mesh configurations, look at performance, specifically on the hybrid, which is the replication layer service, and to really be able to hone in on what we need to improve in order to get the scale that we want. And so what came out of these tests in the spring was that there was already things that were touching on the performance of the hybrid and the game server communications that needed improvement. And so this is what we call the components called the NMQ, the network message queue. When large areas would stream in and a lot of players would join in and leave at the same time, the network message queue could go into a tailspin where, think of it as a drain, right? And you're trying to push stuff in the drain. And at some point, if you exceed the bandwidth of the drain, then water starts filling up. Now, the way that manifests itself in the game is interaction delays. So, pressing F, trying to get in the ship, and it takes seconds before the system reacts. Powering on the ship takes forever, right? So that's what we saw in the tech preview. And so that we had to go a little bit back on the drawing board and actually fast track one of the refactors we want to do, which is the introduction of a replacement message queue. But we did need to take a little bit of a sideways step to optimize the RMQ, which is now done, and also getting mission tested right now by you guys on 324.
So like we saw in the 600 and 800 player tests, they were a mess, right? And they're admitted that they weren't successful from the player experience standpoint. And CIG believes they were bad mainly because of this network message queue thing. So they spent basically all this time refactoring it, and that was not in the initial timeline for them. And it kind of felt like this messaging should have been said a long time ago, but I'm glad we heard it now. So thank you for that. And next, we got even more honest communication than we've had so far in this episode and for some time.
It is complicating the development in general. So, like, I call it the cost of shipping, but developing, right, is good. But when we give you guys a patch to test and we give you guys a patch to play, that's where a lot of new issues are discovered for the size of games that we have. Even PTU, like you mentioned, like people recopy, they have a behavior that's, it's not their normal behavior. It doesn't go through progression. They're not cutting in the middle of it. It's a lot different. And so shipping these patches, the cost of shipping is enormous. I think shipping these patches like requires an enormous amount of energy, right? And it's absolutely worth it. But it's where, pushing it over the hump, at some point you need to make a call, right? Because the longer a patch stays in this limbo of like, we're almost there, and are we going to discover something else at some point? With the model that we have with our game being alpha, we have to move it over the hump, get those last issues sorted out so we can continue development. Because internally, like, it's like a bunch of freight trains, right? Like, we got this stream of development, this release is holding the rest of the developments. At some point, we no longer have a choice. We do have to move forward.
Now, I want you to let me know what you think. Am I cherry picking a little bit here? Because, one of the last videos I made saying that CIG needs to focus more on pushing the game forward and not looking backwards, that kind of stuff. But when they kept telling us 324 was not holding up 4.0 when we all knew it was, and they just said that essentially, I just wanted them to be honest with us. And finally, somebody was, it feels like. And then for the last question, players asked, what would increase the server FPS?
The most immediate gain there is server meshing for sure. Like, we've seen in our playtest significant frame rate increase across the board for areas because you have less physical entities, right? In general, so that means less geometry, less allocations, less simulation. Metrics has actually already given us quite a bit of very interesting things to look at, and so I'm very hopeful. The radar I was talking about there is going to, allow us to find even more optimizations there that we can do. There's always optimizations, guys, by the way. It's always a thing. But server meshing will definitely help quite a bit. We've seen that in the last test. Like, even with the very large shards, servers were running, on average, a much higher frame rate than our current game shards. So I'm really hopeful for those gains. Because that's going to be a game changer for the game. Like, obviously, performance for the game. If we gain, 1 millisecond on frame time, that's 1 millisecond directly to your gameplay.
I gotta say, I really hope this pans out. I don't know if they're gonna hit some of these extremely lofty goals that they've had over the years, but performance improvements while raising the player count would be very, very welcomed. So with that was the video updates this week. Let's jump into other updates. As always, we'll start out with the sneak peek. So I don't know how much of a sneak peek this is. They showed radioactive damage last year at Citcon, but maybe this is referencing something else. Or is this just more stuff that we saw at last year's Citcon that they're going to re-show us this year? Who knows? And then for dev posts, Vulkan multi-threading is obviously not in 324, but Ali Brown informed us again that it will be in the next major release, which at the time that he said this last time was 4.0. So I guess it's kind of still on target, right? It just sounds like some of the work they're doing for 4.0 is required for this, so it just kind of has to wait. Then Yogi, while responding to a feedback post about being locked, like their speed being locked while your landing gear is down, gave a sneak to the fact that we're going to have an MFD page that's for IFCS, and I assume all that stuff will persist as well. I think that's something they said at Citcon last year. And then the last one is pretty obvious, but it confirms that one of the strongest weapons that was only earned through real money purchase will be in game in 4.0. I think it's just sad that we have to just have this discussion, that this is even a discussion topic, right? And then there's a new front page on the website. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's nothing too crazy. It's just this kind of part of a wider change that they're doing. I think they said the pledge store was going to be next. My only gripe is that the Star Citizen section next to Squadron is not 100% clear that Star Citizen is in alpha, Star Citizen is in development, while they're saying that Squadron is in development and not out, right? They're not really making those things clear. So it makes sense to tell people right from the start, since CIG is constantly telling us when we complain about it. So tell people when they buy it, right? And then the subscriber update, this month's Flare theme is pirate furniture. So the $10 subs get a skull chair, $20 subs get a skull couch, and if you want to buy more on the store, you're given a ton of options this time, starting with a table, then all three, then 4 chairs with a table, then 4 chairs with a couch and table. These packages range from $17 to $25, and I feel like this is insane, but again, I way prefer cosmetic sales over ship sales, and I can see them selling a ton of these when base building is really kind of going, whole theme sets and things like that, right? This month's ship of the month is actually ships of the month. You get the entire Mirai Fury lineup to try, so you could buy it if you want as well, obviously, but I think them being available in game, they're already cheap, so you can go that route if you end up liking them, so you don't have to buy them, right? And then the Citcon goodies package, the dead rig shotgun I talked about a little while ago was in last year's Citcon goodies package, and that stuff hasn't made it in game yet. So yeah, Citcon is not far away, so they're kind of giving details on that package, right? It's $30, and it comes with a classic trophy, a coin, and a storage chest. What I consider a first look at a flight suit that we may, you know, be given benefits in flight, maybe, since they hinted at some of that stuff for a while, and a double bed, 2 versions of the civilian version of the P8AR. They want to clarify that it's a civilian weapon, and they are going to be naming it differently, which the military version will be the highlight weapon of Squadron 42, so they don't want to spoil you there. All right, that was the episode. I've never wanted to get off camera more in my entire life. So guys, please support the sponsor. If you guys haven't yet, boot.dev is great. And also, if you guys haven't yet, check out my merch store. It'll be linked down below. Yeah, so I'm just gonna head out. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll see you guys next week. Hopefully a lot cooler. Hopefully I'll be cooler by the time I'm uploading this tomorrow. So thank you for watching, and we'll catch you guys next week, and I'll see you on Twitch.